welcome to the Kenney Show. This is the place where we take a no bullshit look at life's little lessons. Here, together, we find the spiritual glory in even the most wicked hard story. This is a journey from fear back to love and how we can find our greatest strength and happiness in some of the most unlikely places. I believe that if you're willing to change your mind, you can totally change your life. So, are you ready to rewrite your story and choose to live free? Let's do this. Hey, you guys, welcome to episode 60, the big 60 of the Kenney Show. I'm wicked excited. This topic comes from both, I would say, my spiritual team and by request. Sending this one out to you, Aaron. So here we go. This is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, short and punchy, right to the point. Here we go. Episode 60. Don't drink the KoolAid. Don't sip it. Don't chug it. Don't have it as an after dinner aperitif. What do you call those things? A little after dinner adult beverage refreshment. Stay away from the KoolAid. This is what I'm talking about. It is so important, you guys, nowadays, in this day and age, that you think for yourself. Do not be led like sheep to the slaughter. You know what I'm saying? Don't be the sheeple. Don't just take people's words for things all the time. I'm not talking about not trusting your partner, your sweetie, the people you love. Like, I'm just talking about we are being fire hosed constantly by the news, by social media, by the interwebs, right? All this external information pouring into us. And you can't just take everybody's word for it. I can't tell you how many times, so especially as a person who, I am a sucker for a good turn of phrase. I love words. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. I love to read. I love books, right? So I love information. I love words. So when I was younger, I used to just be a little naive and I would blindly kind of take people at their word. And all of a sudden I started to encounter when I started getting, well, not just when I was dating and a little bit older, let's just back that up, little rewind. From the time I was a very young age. Now, I didn't know what it was, right? I didn't know what I was experiencing. I could feel what I was experiencing, but I didn't have the fancy words for what I was experiencing, which was basically like cognitive dissonance, I think they call it, which is what you're hearing, what you're being told, what somebody's words are, do not match their actions. And not only will you suffer if that is happening to you, that somebody outside of you who it's like somebody saying they love you while they punch you in the face or kick you when they're down or stab you in the back. It's like, wait, what? It can be very hard for us to process that. Like, what is happening? And we don't want it to be true. And we just want to believe that they say who they are, who they said they are, and that they love us because they said they did. And at one point, I've heard this from so many different sources and places, and people say, they'll say, people will show you who they are, believe them, right? Not people will tell you who they are, believe them. It's like people will show you who they are, believe them. And so it's not just like taking people for their word all the time, especially when it comes to systems in the government, in school, and teachers, in history books that were written predominantly by white dudes, you know what I'm saying? So it's like old white guys, right? Reporting back from the field what the truth is. You should be wicked, wicked, wicked suspicious of that. So this is one of the things right now. I just kind of like to invite people into independent thinking, critical thinking. Right? What I see so much of nowadays is, conditioned thinking, is that we are brought up with very particular belief systems or quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes because you can't see me if you're not watching, facts, right? Facts are being presented to us. And it seems nowadays that a lot of quote unquote facts are actually from the top level down. Now, I am not a political show, right? I don't get into politics like on the level of like as a commentator, like I know what I'm talking about and I know all the laws and the issues. I have opinions, of course, but when the leader of the land is a pathological liar, Houston, we have a problem, right? So we're being fed a constant barrage from all the sides, about what's true. Here's the thing. We have to decide for ourselves what's true. And this is why developing a relationship with your inner teacher, call that Holy Spirit, your spiritual team, the divine source, gut instinct, intuition, I don't care what you call it. But if you don't spend some time listening to your spidey senses, because I'll tell you what, I see a lot of stuff that is being put out into the world and my spidey senses are tingling. You could also say my bullshit meter, right? My bullshit alarm going off like amazing at what's the word? Deafening decibels. So here's what I'm trying to say. Even me, you should question everything. You should question your own thoughts. You should question what comes out of my mouth. I always say I am sharing what I think, what I believe, what I feel in this moment. But I reserve the right to change my mind. I reserve the right to be wrong. And I reserve the right to pivot at any point. I give myself total permission to pivot at any point. These are the things that I believe right now. But the things that I believe, I have come to those conclusions. I would like to think maybe I have a big blind spot to this, but I don't think so because I question a lot of things, right? And so it's like I want to give you encouragement to think for yourself, to find out for yourself if something feels true, if something feels right, if something feels off, if there's something is like suspicious and you're like, whatever, like don't drink their Kool-Aid. I'm talking everybody from when you hit a certain point. Here's the thing. When we are little kids, we are told and taught what to think and what to believe. And in one of my episodes, if you go back and listen to it, it was the episode called the willingness to be unpopular. I talk about an old relationship that I had with a boyfriend who one day said to me, and I'm not going to totally go into it here, like go back if you don't know this story, like go back and listen to that episode because it's a whole long story and it's a pretty good one. But I'll never forget that this guy that I was dating basically said to me one time, I hope that you get to go to heaven. And I was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like what? And he was basically saying to me like, oh, I hope you get to go to heaven. And I'm like, based on what? Right? So he was judging me. He was casting a judgment, little Bible thumpery. He was being a little Bible thumpery at me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like questioning some of my beliefs. And I'm like, oh, so this coming from you, the guy who's been sleeping with me before marriage, like before holy matrimony, like, oh, so you like get a pass for that sin, quote unquote sin, right? But me, I'm eternally damned for like, having some pushback against somebody who said something that I thought was incredibly ignorant and hateful. It was such a fascinating story. But when I kept questioning him, because he was kind of coming at me with like his beliefs. And as I kept questioning him, what I finally said to him is I said, dude, you don't even know what you believe. You're just regurgitating and vomiting your parents' beliefs all over me. You don't even actually know what you believe and where you stand and who your God is. So like, don't try to be saving my soul. Right. I think it's fascinating. I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on this, which to me is kind of like, stop trying to help other people extinguish their flames when your ass is still on fire. Right. It's like until you can get on the other side of a thing. If he had come to me and he said, well, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it. And this is what the Bible says or my faith tradition says or blah, blah, blah. I was all set. That's fine. You're entitled to believe that. But if you don't, like, if you're still burning, right, it is not a great time to be giving other people advice about how to put out flames. So I just think it's so fascinating. So right now, people, we are being called to find out the quote unquote truth for ourselves. And here's what I always say. There's really the truth. There's the truth. And then there's everybody else's version of events, right? And I see this as a writer. I see this as a writer of memoir and personal essays, is that if you go back and you were to ask my sister Kim, or you were to go back and ask my stepsisters and stepbrothers, right? Like, hey, on this date at that time when this incident happened, what do you remember? Because memory is a slippery slope, and we're all going to bring our own perspective, our own POV, our own meaning that we've assigned to things. So it is so important in this day and age, you guys, that you figure out what is true for you. Don't give your power away to the government, to your priest, to your yoga teacher, to your spiritual mentor, to your coach, to your whoever. It is so important. And I'm amazed sometimes, like I am amazed sometimes at how otherwise wicked, intelligent people have bought into stories that I'm like, oh my God, like, oh my God, right? And it's a fascinating thing when I'm like, why do you believe that? And I can tell you this too, like, especially as a vegan, being vegan. And let me just say this, if anybody's listening, being vegan is different than being plant-based. I should just do a whole show on that too, kind of breaking down how everything, like there are people who will say to me, oh, I'm vegetarian. I'm like, oh, you're vegetarian? And they're like, yeah, I just still eat fish. I don't eat any meat. I just eat fish. And I'm like, oh my God, then you're not a vegetarian. You're not a vegetarian if you eat animals, right? You're not a vegetarian if you eat animals. I'm sorry, right? So I think people get all the labels confused. So if you're plant-based, you tend to eat a plant-based diet. Vegan is an ethical lifestyle that expands beyond that, which expands to animal products. We don't like to use products that are tested on animals. We don't like to go to zoos. We don't like to eat honey. We don't like to go to like SeaWorld. Like, you know, we are against animal exploitation of any kind. We don't wear leather. We don't wear wool. We don't wear silk, right? We don't wear down. We don't wear, like, anywhere an animal is involved, like if it's not compassionate and love-based, we're not in the game. So, but the reason why I'm bringing all that up is if you're a vegan or as a vegan, right? At one point as an animal lover, let me say it like this. One point as an animal lover, I had to check in with my own cognitive dissonance, which was I was claiming to be an animal lover. This is way back in the day, right? I was claiming to be an animal lover while I still ate them, used products from companies that tested on them, used them as scientific experiments, ate their byproducts like eggs and milk, still participated in going to zoos and things. And I'm not saying all zoos are bad. I do know that there are some programs within these things where they are trying to rehabilitate or bring animals back from extinction. I'm not like a total hardcore militant, like can't see the forest through the trees. You know what I mean? I'm aware. But what I'm saying is there was cognitive dissonance because I was just kind of following what I had always been taught. I hadn't done any research for myself. I did not educate myself on where my food came from. I did not educate myself on factory farming and how milk actually gets produced and how, because of, you know, the milk industry, the dairy industry, that's where the veal industry is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this isn't a whole rant about being vegan, but what I'm saying, it's a great example of how I was just chugging the KoolAid of all the happy advertisements of the happy cows and dairy, like got milk, and all the brainwashing that had been done. Like it was just, you know, when I was a little kid, I loved animals. So, but they didn't call it dead cow meat. They called it a hamburger. And they called them pork chops, right? And they didn't name the thing, right? So we grow up and we kind of get brainwashed that this is just what we do. And at some point as an adult, I had to start asking the hard questions, and I had to start thinking for myself. Just like we kind of get pounded through constant barragement of drink alcohol, weekends were made for Michelob, drink this beer, drink this alcohol, you'll be sexy, drink this friggin' champagne and shake your ass and all the girls will come to your yard, whatever, right? It's just like, oh my God. At what point do you start to realize, like, oh, I have my own autonomy. I have my own agency. I have my own fucking mind, and I can choose for myself. I don't have to drink the KoolAid from my parents, my siblings, my society, my friends, my culture, my whatever. Like, we get to decide for ourselves in all those big areas. Like, food and where we shop and religion and sex and like whatever. Like we have to question things, you guys. Don't just be led by the nose, right? Don't be hooked through your nose ring, right? Like a cattle who's being led to slaughter. Do not be led by everything you see. You have to stop and you have to be curious enough to go, well, is that true? Where does this money go? What does my vote really stand for and mean? What do I really care about? You know what I'm saying, you guys? It's like so important nowadays that we don't chug the Kool-Aid. And I've been in enough systems, you know, that I've started to realize like, oh my God, like even in the yoga world, like I started to see people like making these claims and like saying these things. And I'm like, what? And I'm the kind of person that has to find things out for myself or I can't get behind it. You know, you ever have a relationship where, let's say there's 4 girlfriends. There's 4 girlfriends. And there's somebody else that they're aware of and they don't like them. Right. And that one said this about that one and we don't, and they're trying to like get you on the hate train, I say, right? They'll be like, oh, she's a bitch or she's this or she's that. And I'm always like, well, maybe it's true. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. But I'm not going to just all of a sudden cast this person out of my hat because you don't like them. I have to find out for myself. Now, granted, this is not always the most soothing way of learning. Because sometimes you get, you know, you get bit on the ass, right? Sometimes you go find out for yourself and you're like, shit, I should have just listened. But some of us a little like Dawn breaks over Marblehead. You can hear Toby pajamas. Hold on. Come on, Toby. It was just your birthday, buddy. So sometimes Dawn breaks over Marblehead and some of us a little more thick-skulled, right? We have to learn the hard way. But you guys, I just really want you to be paying attention and questioning that, right? Just question what they're telling you, like about everything, man. And it's so hard nowadays because it's like, you know, here's the other thing too. My sweetie and I were just talking about this on the walk with the dogs. You can find social proof for whatever you choose to believe, right? So, you know, you see all these things, and again, I don't really want to make it all political, but I will tell you this: if you're a Republican, you can find, if you're a Trump lover and a Republican, if you voted for him and whatever, you can find, if you want to, you just go online, you can find all the quote unquote social proof that you think you need to be right. And if you're more liberal and Democrat and and you stand this other way, you can go and we can find all the stuff that we want to like say like, this is my point and this is whatever. The reality of it is that most people, everybody's like kind of operating from an angle. But can we just go and be open-minded, do a little research, ask the questions, talk to people that you don't agree with? You know what I'm saying? Like keep your heart, your mind, and your ears and your hands open. Be willing to be wrong. Be willing to be right. Be willing to find out you didn't have all the facts. Be willing to change your damn mind. This is the thing. Please, you guys, don't chug the Kool-Aid, especially in a time of fear. We become very manipulatable. You know what I'm trying to say? Easily manipulated. Now, I'm all for being malleable. I often say that, right? I want to be like clay in God's hands. I want to be malleable. I want to not be so rigid. I don't want to be walking around with something to attack, defend, or prove, right? I want to be kind of malleable and pliable, which is like I have a little bit more bend and give and flexibility, right? I'm not that much. I'm always like, there's this question in A Course in Miracles. It says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I'm way more interested in being happy. In the beginning, I would have said, you know, can I be both? Can I be both? And sometimes you can, right? Sometimes you can. But the thing is about if you insist on being right, then you have to make your brother or sister wrong. And there's no peace in that. We can agree to disagree, though, sometimes, right? But here's the thing, know what you believe and why. Know how you came to your conclusions. Be able to speak. And if you're going to take a fucking stand, if you're going to dig your heels in and you're going to demand that you're right and it's true, you better be able to explain to me how you got to that place. And not just because you read it on some friggin' rando website, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's just like, it's so easy, you guys, to be divided and to feel separated from your brothers and sisters right now because of our opinions. What if we could just put our dukes down for like 2 seconds and say, hey, this is what I think. Well, why do you think that? Well, because it's been my experience that da 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 da. If I take a hard line on something, it's usually because I've had the experience myself. So I can report back. I can make my report. I can be steadfast and resolute and make my report about this is what I have, true blue, real deal, Holyfield, firsthand experience. This was my experience, right? It's a very dangerous thing when people start saying this is the truth, or people start getting like, this is my truth. Well, it might just be your truth, your experience. It doesn't mean it's true for the rest of us. Your truth doesn't make it the gospel truth. You know what I'm saying? So what if we could just be a little more open-hearted and a little more willing to talk to people, quote unquote, across the aisle? This whole world, as soon as we believe that we're separate bodies, we're all of a sudden going to have 1,000 labels and 1,000 dualistic like approaches to things. So we got to show up with a little bit of willingness to listen, to learn, to lead from a place of this is what I believe right now, but it might change. I might get more information. I might get smarter, right? I might be more willing to not have to be so right or to appear to be the smartest one in the room. But for the love of all things holy, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't jump in and turn off your blood. Like I see it a lot in corruption and I can just speak to like the yoga world, right? Where all of a sudden there are all of these quote unquote gurus. And what the word guru I'll paraphrase what it loosely means, right? What it means is the one who brings light to the darkness, the one who brings ignorance who brings truth to ignorance, the one who illuminates, right? Never give away your agency, your autonomy, and your authority to another person. You can listen to them. You can learn from them, right? They can definitely be wicked helpful, but don't just go all in unless, of course, sometimes you just have to trust your gut. Sometimes you're going to feel like, oh my God, I just have to do this. And you follow it. And it's exactly where you were supposed to be. And sometimes you go and you learn the hard way, but hey, still, it's good. But please, like in the yoga world, I was just seeing all these gurus, right? Like all these dudes, they get a little power and then shit gets weird. And they start abusing and groping and sleeping with and manipulating and abusing their students. And I'm like, it's not like all these other people around didn't see what was going on. They did. But they started making excuses because they were experiencing cognitive dissonance, but they didn't want the truthy truth to be true. They didn't want to have to give up their guru. They didn't want to have to give up their belief system. But dudes, once you see something you can't unsee, you can't unsee it. You can't just just because you put it, like bury it in the ground or shove your head up your own ass or like sweep it under the carpet, doesn't make it go away. So right now, you got to start to trust yourself, trust your spiritual team, trust divine intelligence. Don't go out there and just chug what the external world is feeding you. The external world it's an outward picture. It's an outward reflection of an inward condition. So what we have to be questioning first and foremost, is ourselves. Is my thinking right? Is my head on straight? Which teacher am I choosing, love or fear? Which teacher am I choosing, spirit or ego? Where do I have an agenda? Where have I already made up my mind and I'm not willing to budge and it's costing me and it's going to cost the people I love? It is so important, you guys. Individual, independent, critical thinking. I am never telling you what to think. I am always inviting you to think, to find out for yourself, to find out what is truthy truth true for you. Because I'm not interested in having a bunch of yes people around me. It's great to have like-minded people around you in terms of like people who like get you and understand you. But I don't want people who yes me to death. I want people who are going to say like, hey, why do you think that? People who are going to question me. And I don't mean question me in an obnoxious or arrogant way, but really out of curiosity, like they're trying to understand or they're trying to learn. So again, that's all I'm going to say. Think for yourself. Don't be led by everything that it appears that you're seeing, the stuff that you seem to think that you're seeing here, right? Because it is a crazy world out there. And not everybody out there who is running things has your best interest at heart. A lot of things continue to happen. A lot of terrible things continue to happen. A lot of ignorant, hateful, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, suppression, right? Things that should never be happening. They continue to thrive and live because not enough people are questioning the status quo. They're not questioning what's going on. And they're just blindly, like little zombies, just kind of like little sheeple off to slaughter, following, quote unquote, the rules. Now, I'm not talking about anarchy. I am talking about evolution and revolution of the spirit, of the mind, of staying open that to the possibility that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And neither do they, and neither do I, right? So we got to question everything. We have to find out. You know, there's that thing of like when I love a good movie, a good cop movie or a good mystery movie. You know, when somebody gets kidnapped and they're like, we want proof of life. Put them on the phone. I need to hear them. I need to know. I need to know for myself before I take action. That's what we're looking for here. We want proof of life, whether it's in your politics, your spirituality, your religion, where you do your banking, what causes, you know, don't just send the money off. Find out if the people who supposedly are supposed to get the money actually do. See what I'm saying? We are all one. We are all one. There is perfect oneness, right? But here in the illusion of bodies and separation and countries and races and black and white and male and female and all the different 1,000 ways we can express ourselves in this lifetime, right? Find out what's true for you through experience, not through just reading some pamphlet, not because your priest told you or your government told you or your mother told you or that's the way your auntie always did it or this is how, if you end up somewhere because you chose it, because you were informed, you know what? That's a beautiful thing. You know yourself. Know yourself. Know what you think and know why you think it. Know what you believe and know why you believe it. So many people walk around suffering because they're playing old tapes that other people made for them when they were little kids. You got grown-ass adults, right? It's just like little kids. I always say it's like wounded little kids. Toby, wounded little kids walking around in big people's bodies. Because you haven't questioned enough if what they said about you and what they told you was true. So let's find out for ourselves. Let's be curious enough to stand on our own 2 feet to find out who am I, what do I think, what do I believe, and why. I always say it's not so much be suspicious, but it's like be vigilant for the quality of your thoughts. Be vigilant for the quality of your speech, your words, your actions, and what you're contributing to the world right now. And be suspicious of the people who are trying to sell you a bill of goods, especially if it's about not taking care of others. Because this is the only way we get it done, you guys, is we got to help each other. And if we're walking around with our biases and our prejudice and our opinions and our preferences, it makes everything so much harder. And can you hold your opinions loosely? This is what I believe right now, but I might learn something different. And I always say it is important to know what you live for and what you're willing to die for. There are going to be some things that for you are going to be non-negotiable. And that's okay if you come to that conclusion based on some truth for yourself, not because somebody else told you you should hate that group of people. that they're sinners, that they're bad, that they're wrong, that they're greedy, that this one is this. Find out what lives in your heart, what lives in your mind, what lives in your body, in your history, right? Find out for yourself if it's still true. Question everything. And I don't mean walk around like tinfoil hat being suspicious of everybody. I don't mean that. I mean, it's just really, really important, you guys, that you're not chugging their Kool-Aid. Don't do it. Don't do it. Think for yourself. That's my little love letter from my heart to yours. And I hope it lands, right? I hope whatever I share in some way is of service or is helpful. That's all I ever hope to do. These are like my little love letters that I get to send out to the world via the audio waves, or if you watch this on YouTube, right, through video. But I just love you guys so much. I care about you so much. I've been thinking about you so much. And in this time of fear, in this time of chaos right now, a very heightened state of unknown and anxiety, I just want you to ground down into the things that feel true and all-knowing for you. Know who you are. Know what you believe. Find out for yourself. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Okay. I see you. I celebrate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And I love you. And wherever you go, may you be a blessing. Bye. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Karen Kenney Show. I super duper appreciate your time, friendship, and support. And look, if something that I shared from my heart today somehow landed in yours, I'd love to hear about it. So please tag me on Facebook or Instagram or IG stories or wherever the cool kids are hanging out these days, and let me know what your favorite part was or what you found most helpful. You can find me over at Karen Kenney Live. That's Karen, KenneYlive. And if you're digging what I'm saying and you want to hear more, I'd be wicked grateful if you could go to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, because you guys, that's how you'll help me to keep spreading the love. And if you can think of someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please share it with them. I'd also love to stay connected with you. So if the feeling is mutual, please go to KarenKenney.com/freebie and download my free guide to building your spiritual team. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, keep living in the fearless flow. Know that I see you, I appreciate you, and I love you. And wherever you go, may you be a blessing.